Hello and welcome to episode 283 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
The Wall 77 Club on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Fosun will knock sack Gary O'Neill for the love of their life on x.com as well, if you want to follow us on there.
Jack Williams is here.
Hi, everybody.
Now, I'm going to start in the comments section because it's absolutely buzzing. IH says, from what I've heard, it's because no one else is interested in working for Fosun's ownership model. So they're just going to shaft us even more by keeping Tipex teeth. That's a new one. We're going to nick that. By the way, just for context, the video is called Jeff Shi Decides Not to Sack Gary O'Neill. Stephen says, good evening all. Appalling news. Apparently the board are backing O'Neill now and into the new year transfer window. This decision, Wolves are relegated and Fosun will be forced into a fire sale. Neil White, it will not surprise you. Gary O'Neill out and both of the other two clowns. Matt says, absolutely atrocious. Gary O'Neill is taking us back down to the Championship. It's going to be toxic against Ipswich, especially when they beat us. Lost all hope in this club. Mitchell says, cannot believe they've kept him on using such terms as result depending and change of heart. 3 wins in 24 and they may have a change of heart and sack him. Shambles. Get Jeff out. Paul Somerset Wolf says, unbelievable he's still here after the last 2 games. She needs sacking as well. James says, evidently, I'm hallucinating. Deborah says, they're having a laugh. Harry, where do you start? We will start with West Ham. It was a game that Wolves needed to get something from. That wasn't the case.
Well, I'll tell you where we will start. I can't believe Gary O'Neill was in the dugout for West Ham for a start. He should have been sacked after Everton and after our last podcast, when we last recorded Thursday night. I thought we might see him gone by the time we do this podcast today. Oh, it's just, it's a nightmare. And look, it was a better performance. It couldn't get much worse, could it, than Everton? We defended quite well first half. I thought we defended okay. The selection was a bit of a head scratcher for me. Yeah, I think Doc, we praised Doc a lot, didn't we, for his performance against Everton? So I can kind of see why he wanted to shoehorn him in. Semedo at right centre-back, always reliable. Obviously, Dawson with his nightmare and Jose Sá with his nightmare. Wasn't a surprise to see them out the team. Bit strange, like João Gomes was kind of like right wing, wasn't he? He was pushed out onto the right side of the front three with Cunha on the left. But so yeah, head scratcher of a lineup. Decent first half performance. We probably should have gone in 1-0. João Gomes missed a really good chance, although Aït-Nouri did perform some heroics, didn't he, with a great block first half as well, if you remember that one. But second half, once that corner goes in, which wasn't a corner, by the way, it definitely come off the West Ham player, but once Souček is left completely unmarked, the classic Wolves defending of this season, we just don't man-mark anyone and leave people on their own. 14th set-piece goal conceded. Piss poor. And from there, it was typical Wolves. We equalised, we concede straight away. That's typical Wolves. Yeah. And Gary O'Neill, our friend who has had the vote of confidence today, was just looking like a defeated man who didn't know what to do. And then he brings off Strand Larsen when you're trying to chase. I think we were 1-0 down at the time, and we're trying to chase from being behind. He brings off your striker. Maybe he was knackered, I don't know, but that one just sent me off the edge. I'll be honest, that just my head went when he took Strand Larsen off. And yeah, really poor performance. We got absolutely shafted by the officials. We should have had 2 penalties. Definitely one of them should have been given. I think 2. But in saying that, although we do have VAR against us, the performance was bad again against a West Ham team who were crap and who we should have beat. And if we're on it, and we performed how we know we can with this squad, which I know they're void of confidence, so that's why we can't do it. We should be getting a result at West Ham, for me. And Gary O'Neill, although he come out of his lovely press conference after and pointed out we'd sold £200 million worth of players to deflect all the blame off himself, which I thought was a great move. And I thought it was ballsy because I thought he was leaving. I thought he was like, right, let's just throw him under the bus. I'm going. But he's not. But he's done a good job because I've seen a lot of Wolves fans starting to support him now and gone completely on Fosun. But for me, with that squad, we should not be in the bottom 3. So it's everyone's fault. It's Gary O'Neill's fault, it's Hobbs' fault, it's Jeff Shi's fault, it's Fosun's fault. And we're in a mess from top to bottom. I can't believe he's in a job. And the only reason he's in a job is because they don't want to pay him off They don't want to spend any money, and they can't be asked to pay for a good manager to come in to get us out this shit. We are going down.
It's clippable. It's Harry's view. Jack, I'm going to bring you in. I think you sent a message to the group about 6 p.m. saying, I'm so cold right now. Don't know why I bothered. Obviously, you ventured to the London Stadium. What was it like for you?
What was it like for me? Shit ground, shit football, shit temperature, shit atmosphere. They're just not enjoyable to watch at all, really. There was very little good about it. I mean, this isn't just sour grapes or anything, but like I've said before on the podcast, I really don't like that ground very much. I don't think West Ham fans like it either. You know, you have to walk miles from Stratford Station to bloody get to it in the first place, and there's just no atmosphere. It's because, if anything, it's just so far away from the pitch, and then the lower tier fans and the upper tier fans, there's a massive gap in between them, which is basically just scaffolding. So, you know, the Wolves fans, I didn't go to Everton, but the Wolves fans didn't sound anything like they sounded on the telly when I saw it at Everton. There was just no atmosphere there. No atmosphere from their fans either, because they're just looking around and there's empty seats bloody everywhere as well. So
I thought that. Yeah.
So, you know, it's not an enjoyable place to go. And especially not an enjoyable place to go and watch Gary O'Neill's Wolves, even more so. So, you know, everything was flat, and everything was flat. The performance was kind of as expected. A little bit better than I expected first half. You know, we kept a clean sheet in a half of football, so that's a win for us these days. But I still think West Ham, you know, were the better team, and there were times where we were struggling to get out a little bit. And then, you know, you go in at half time, you have a little chat, and you think, you know, this lot potentially they're there for the taking here. We're all right. And then what do you do? Come after the second half, and you leave a massive bloke at the back post completely unmarked for a free header. And so, you know, what's the point? You know, that just undoes all the work. And when they had that second goal, which was eventually ruled out for VAR, people just started leaving. People just started walking even straight away. And, you know, I don't blame them, really. Yeah, what else is there to say? Like Harry, I'm just shocked he's still in the job. I keep telling myself, this will be the game. This will be the game. This will be the game where they get rid of him. That's it. And then it doesn't happen straight after the game. But I'm thinking, well, you know, I have to get back from London by lunchtime today. There'll be a corner flag tweet out. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't know. Just don't know. Everyone just seems to, you know, I think it gets a really easy ride from the media and stuff as well. It's just, it's shocking, really. But the bottom line is we haven't played for any sort of run of form together this calendar year, and it's December. We've got 9 points so far. You know, this year, when with the players we've got and the games we've been in, we should have more than that. And it's just unacceptable. It's getting beyond a joke now. It's kind of just getting to the stage where it's just, you know, embarrassing. And what do you do? Because if Fosun say they're going to back him, then what's going to happen here is we are just going to get relegated. And he's lost the fans now. Before we've had a lot of patience with him, because I know at the start we were all taking the piss and calling him a PE teacher. We went on that good run. We beat the Albion. Everything's rosy. But you know, it doesn't count for much now, because the run of form we've had since March, April last season is just horrific. And if you don't look at that on paper and think this is relegation form, and just look how many goals we've let in. You don't stay up in this league by letting in nearly 40 goals before Christmas or whatever we have. It's just a shambles. And I don't buy this now. The fact that, granted, yeah, we've lost some key players. I get that. However, there is enough in that squad and a big enough wage bill and enough talent to at least not be in the relegation zone come Christmas. And I think that's where we're going to be. And I know after Fulham, we all seem to, you know, myself included, thinking I thought we'd turned a corner. And then by 3:15 the following Saturday, it's just back down to earth. And it's just a shambles. It's a shambles defensively. And that's the problem. And the thing that really winds me up is you can tell the mentality is just screwed by our record of getting ourselves back into a game or scoring a goal and then immediately conceding. It's a habit now. It's kind of like they're expecting it. They're thinking, okay, shit, we've scored now. What do we do? And they just shit themselves. So that means that you need fresh ideas, I think. You need a fresh approach. You need someone to come in, build their confidence back up, reassess the situation, and, you know, try and implement their own ideas and style of play. It needs proper man management. And I just don't think he's got it in him because, I'll be honest, I don't think he cares that much. I think he just wants to get sacked so he gets his payout. You can tell he keeps saying he's not taking it personally, not taking it to heart, blah, 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 blah. It's not hurting him on a personal level. And it should be, because it's hurting the players, it's hurting the fans. But the hierarchy at the club don't seem to get it. So it's just a shambles, and we are going to get relegated. I think people need to wake up to that. I don't know if Fosun just thinking, we'll do the same as we did under Lopetegui, spend a few quid in January and finish 13th or whatever we did. But it's not going to happen again. It's rare for teams who are in the relegation zone or bottom at Christmas to get out of it. We know that from history. And if we do by some miracle stay up this season, it's not going to be because Gary O'Neill's a genius and he's done so well because we've sold our best players. It's because the bottom of that Premier League is shit. That's the reality of it. Yeah. The only reason we're still in contention is because there's some poor teams at the bottom, poor teams that that will probably end up beating us this coming Saturday when we play Ipswich. But what do you do?
Well, that's a great question. Harry, I know you pulled up a couple of comments, so I'm going to read one out from James. The media also gaslighting us with all this crap about how Gary O'Neill still deserves a chance. Mick McCarthy was on TalkSport this morning with Jeff Stelling, Ali McCoy, sort of saying that he needs time and he's always up for giving managers time, obviously, given that he was a manager. It can't get any worse, can it? It can. Sort of comes to mind again. Obviously, you having a little bit of a conversation with our former captain, Carl Henry, earlier today. It was quite a nice affair, wasn't it? Just talk us through that one.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to talk about McCoist, Mick McCarthy, even Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football after the game, still saying that O'Neill deserves a chance. This is what I moaned about last week. They don't have to watch us week in, week out the whole game. They see us every now and then. They see little highlights and they remember the good times. Mm-hmm. They haven't watched what we're watching. They haven't seen in detail the decisions Gary O'Neill makes in games. So for that, they can all sod off because it annoys the hell out of me. I don't know what Gary O'Neill's done to the likes of Sky Sports and TalkSport, but they bloody love him. And the Express and Star love him. I mean, you could tell they're buzzing. He's staying, by the way, on their video today. But it's probably because he is a nice bloke to be around when in the press conferences and he gives them a lot of access. I get it. He's quite open, isn't he, in his press conferences, which is better than when we had Nuno, for example, on that element. But yeah, he's loved for some reason. I don't get it. All Wolves fans who watch it week in, week out, no, he should not be in a job. And the other comment you referenced, the bloke said that how can we keep saying we've got a good squad? Look how many goals we scored going forward. I admit we've got a terrible side defensively. And we're a bit of a clown show at the back, but you can't argue with our goals going forward this season, considering how much we're struggling. So we have got the squad. If someone could just sort it out, we should be mid-table with the squad we've got. And that's with us selling all our superstars as well. So that's just my opinion on that. I think a decent manager would have us out the bottom three at least, even with our hard start with the fixtures. On Carl Henry, obviously he was referencing Lemina kicking off at full time. Now, I think Bowen initiated it. He ended up having a bit of a scrap, fell on the floor. Then he was squaring up to Toti Gomez, squaring up to Sean Derry, one of the coaching staff, and he lost his head. And Carl Henry's argument was that it's really good he's showing passion. And this is another example. You'd assume someone like Carl Henry, he watches a lot of Wolves games, but the way he replied to me, I kind of don't think he does, because he was just referencing that one moment. And my argument was, I was saying, look, Carl, he's been emotional all season. He cried after Liverpool. The captaincy's definitely affected his performances on the pitch. There's no doubt about it. And he's just not a captain. He's not a good captain. We've got the one end of the spectrum when we had Kilman, who was a mouse and never said anything, but just led by example with some of his good performances. And then you've got another end of the spectrum in Lemina, who is a hothead and is just way too emotional. He's like an upset housewife. We need someone in the middle. We need someone in the middle who can be decent, have a bit of emotion, but know when to rein it in. That was awful what Lemina did. And it just shows Gary O'Neill's got no control because he was just walking around not caring when it was going on. So, yeah, for me, I got Carl Henry's point because it is better to have a captain that cares and is showing emotion. You can tell he is annoyed with loss, but I think there's a certain way to behave as a captain, as a football club. And like Jack referenced the other week, some people are just not out to be captains, and I think he's one of them. And it's affecting him. So, yeah, I think I've covered everything you asked there.
It's a good point, though, isn't it, Jack? Because we've seen it at times this season, and obviously Harry brought it up earlier on LNX, saying that, we are all saying at the beginning of the season, Lemina is the right choice to be captain, but then it falls into this argument of don't make your best player captain. I think you probably said it on the podcast last week where I think you referenced cricket at the time, saying that definitely your best player doesn't make a good captain, and you just see it spill over. I've watched it back so many times with Jared Bowen and that handshake, and obviously something was said, but I just don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I didn't see that because I walked out by that point. Really, I walked out on 96 minutes or something like that. I think as soon as they got a set piece or something later on, so I didn't see it all kick off until saw like the photos and the videos afterwards. But it's not just an isolated one-off event, is it? It's a pattern of behaviour now. It's a pattern of behaviour, like Harry said, with poor performances and things that we've seen on the pitch that captains shouldn't do, and that's what we've seen on the pitch. So what else is going on behind closed doors? Or we don't know, because if it's spilling over into the field of play and in front of the cameras, then it's a concern. And I know performances are bad. I know he's the pressure and he feels he's letting the fans down or whatever. But, you know, to be a captain, you have to be made of sterner stuff than the people around you. And yeah, maybe it was a mistake to give him that level of responsibility, because it clearly has had an impact, and I am starting to question it. So, but the question is then, who else would you pick, really? Because we just all said Dawson, but Dawson's A, not been playing, B, not fit, and B, when he has played, hasn't been very good lately. So who would be it'd have to be Cunha, really, because he's the only one who's going to seemingly play, but it could be a similar situation. So
not a fan of having a forward player captain. I'm a bit too old school in that, but I mean, you'd probably have to be looking at Semedo, possibly, if you're going to keep in the back line with experience. Let's have a look at those comments. Harry, you just pulled it up, because I was in two minds whether to bring it up or not. Where's it gone? I don't agree with Mansell. Why should we be mid-table? A bunch of fumblers. We can't pass. We can't make a run. We can't cross the ball. We can't shoot. Why are people bigging up our squad? We are crap. You would say that, but I think Doc came in, obviously a bit of a weird formation of wherever Semedo was playing, but got on the score sheet. And actually his goal return is actually very, very good considering the team that he's in. I think he scores 1 in 9, whereas Semedo is 1 in 127, which just shows the difference in terms of who's got the shooting boots on. But was it João Gomez, Harry? And you think that out of the two of them that was going to put away that finish, you didn't think it'd be Doc, but obviously getting on the score sheet again.
You're on mute, Harry. Oh, it's gone into a Teams call. Bloody hell.
Oh my God, sorry. I was muted. My bad. Bloody hell, I'm as unorganised as Gary O'Neill doing a team talk. Well, João Gomez's miss, I've referenced that, should have put it away. That chance just after half-time when Aït-Nouri could have laid it across to Doherty. And I had Doc, first goal scorer, at bloody 50-1, whatever it was. I was gutted about that. But yeah, great finish from Doc, by the way. Great goal. And look, I get what that bloke's saying. I'm sorry, I forgot it. Rubby. Was it Rubby? I get why he's angry, but we've scored, 23 goals? There we go, Rubber Dinghy Rapids. We've scored 23 goals this season, so we've shown we can attack. I know it's been awful, especially against Everton, it was awful. Defensively, I agree with you. We are a shambles. When we try and pass it around the back and try and be clever, it's awful to watch. When we just get it up there and go direct, we're all right, and we can create good chances. Cunha's gone missing the last few games since Fulham. Cunha's been very quiet since he had all the plaudits. I thought Strand Larsen did okay last night, but he was frustrating. Obviously, he was really good against Bournemouth. Should have scored against Everton. Had a few chances. Gomez will miss. Gomez will miss the next game, when I think he's suspended. But like I said, he should have scored his chance. So we have got the talent going forward. Tommy Doyle come on and ballooned a couple of chances over the bar. He should have probably scored. Guedes looked lively when he come on. Obviously, we should have had a penalty from him. Bellegarde, we should have had a penalty. So we caused him a few problems. And on another day, we probably could have got a 2-2 draw if it goes our way. But for me, I think it's the man in charge. I stick with. I'm not going to change my opinion on that. I think with a better manager in charge, who's tactically better in game, I think we'd be further up the table than where we are now. And obviously, I get why everything's on Jeff Shi and Fosun now. The lights are all on them. It was showing Matt Hobbs in the stand looking at his iPad. He's in the iPad crowd now, in the stands at the London Stadium. I don't think I think if it was him, he probably would get rid of O'Neill, but I reckon it's from the higher ups, Jeff Shi and Fosun, who are saying, we ain't paying him off. So I think what we've got to do now, as much as I've criticised O'Neill, and I think he's tactically inept, and I think he's what a big reason why we're in the bottom three, we have got no choice now but to support him. He admitted himself in his press conference, he's lost the fans. He's lost the fan base. Nearly everyone. They're all singing, get him out, sack him in the morning. But I think, to be credit to him, I've criticised his press conferences. It was the best one he's done post West Ham. He spoke honestly. He didn't speak a load of rubbish. He didn't big himself up, like, loving himself. He was quite honest. He brought up Fosun and their faults. But now all we can do is back him and the players. Else we're going to go down. We know. At least we know where we're at now. No one agrees with it. We think we should have a new manager, but at least we know what we're watching and what's going to happen. He's going to be in for at least the next 2 games. We lose the next 2, 3 or 4-0, probably going to be gone. But then they've referenced they're backing in with players in January. So in their mind, they're probably keeping him to January no matter what. So all we can do is back him. It's a mess. And it's a tough time being a Wolves fan, but we had some nice moments under Fosun about Europa League and that, but it's slowly died over the last few years. We're losing hope, but all we can do is hope somehow we can get out of this mess. We did it before under Lopetegui, but this time I think it's one step too far.
It's one step too far because you haven't got any confidence that he's actually, these players we bring in January, that he's capable of getting the best out of them. It's a bit like buying your dog a Scalextrics or something. It's just a waste of time. So the thing that really baffles me is just some of our decision making in game. It's just horrendous. The best pass of the game yesterday came from our goalkeeper, which led to the goal. So, in my opinion, the Sam Johnson's ball out wide was brilliant. And just some of the times it's just so frustrating because, referenced already, we've had ones where, we should have pulled it back. There was one where we were in a really promising position and Guedes tried to put a cross in and basically just passed it to their player at the top of the D. And I was thinking, like, how are professional football players doing that? Because that's just like so amateur. It didn't look up, just passed it straight back to them from a promising position. And there were other examples of that as well. And again, it's a pattern because this is happening quite a lot. The decision making this season has been so poor. And then from there, we let pressure onto ourselves and we're panicking about defending. And teams come and attack us, and every attack, it looks like they've got a chance of scoring. Whereas we have to build up to it to finally get that goal and that defining moment. So I don't know what to do because I'm shocked he's still here. I just can't believe it. I thought they just had to take it and just pay him off. You said after Brentford a few times, Harry, and I think that's correct. Because you can't be going away from home and conceding 5 goals. And then since then, we've still conceded shitloads of goals, haven't we? So we're not going to stay up by letting in this many goals, and that needs a change in system, change in formation, and it needs to get players back into form. And at the moment, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, does it? And I've got no confidence that we'll even go and beat Ipswich on Saturday, because you know what could happen. You could know after 5 minutes that we just haven't turned up, and before we know it, we're a goal down. Fans turn, and the same thing that happens so many times this season, we'll just roll over, get our belly tickled, and just give up and stop marking people, stop defending. And, give ourselves too much to do, and the crowd will hate it. And I can't get behind him because I haven't got confidence in him anymore.
Mouldy says, would have loved the Bayliss rant on all of this. I guess he's off skiing, eating lobster and supping champagne at this time of year. I think he's somewhere. Where is he, Jack? Is he in Vietnam?
He's in Vietnam eating spiders and, I don't know, octopus tentacles or whatever.
He's got a snake in his mouth.
What's going on?
Got a snake in his mouth, we don't know what his name is. Obviously, we look at the comments saying, and rightly so, about the sort of the pros around the squad and whether it's good enough and whether the players are good enough. And Harry, I sent it to the group earlier, and the players that have come in and people who've left. Obviously, Kilman comes in, you bring in Moypew, not really up to it, won't play again this season, I wouldn't have thought. Neto goes, you bring in Forbes. That's a lesser player, obviously. Silva leaves, Strand Larsen. I've said Strand Larsen's better, but actually Fabio Silva is on the same amount of non-penalty goals as Mbappe this season in La Liga. So make of that what you will. Podence leaves, Rodrigo Gomez comes in. I don't think he's ready yet. Hugo Bueno leaves on loan, no one in to replace him. So do you think that there is maybe a shout when they say that, well, like you said earlier on the podcast, this team is good enough. But actually, when you look at it and it's in black and white and it's there, and you go, actually, these signings, I don't think have improved us at all.
No, I completely agree with that, and that's on Fosun. We've got weaker and weaker and weaker. We've sold our best players and not really brought them in. But still, in saying that, we've got João Gomez, We've got Cunha. You mentioned Strand Larson. I think Tommy Doyle's brilliant. I think Andre's brilliant. I think Aït-Nouri, he's tipped to go to bloody Man City and Liverpool. We've got talent. Semedo's a quality right back / right wing back. Don't really want to mention the centre halves. I like Santi. I think he's been all right. Goalkeepers in a mess. I agree. But we've got absolute superstars in there. Yeah, we're a bit thin on the bench. Don't get me wrong, but I think Guedes could be tasty if he looked interested and looked like he wanted to try. We've got a few decent players. Huang was on fire last year. Now he looks like he can't kick a ball. So what I mean, like even with selling all those players and not really replacing them, as you said, I still think we've got a decent team, and I think that's what Fosun thought. And Jeff were like, yeah, these will stay up. These will get us 17th. But Gary O'Neill's right to point out all that. We do. They've told us for years they were going to do it. This sell to buy. In one of the ass walls 3 years ago, Jeff wouldn't stop banging on about it. Sell your superstars, buy potential. We brought Pedro Lima, Rodrigo Gomez. I know Forbes is only on loan, but they buy them because in a few years' time they'll sell them for millions. Andre, they brought him for 20 million, whatever it was. They want to sell him for 60 in a few years. That's what they do now. They don't buy for here and now. And if they do, they loan them in, have a look, and then pay if they want them. And it's just not good enough. When they first come in, they just brought monsters straight away. The Jotas, the Neves, Bolly. But now they don't. They just want to... He's treating us like a bloody stock trade, and he's just buying in cheap players to get the maximum amount of money back. And that's what Jeff wants to do, because he wants to keep his higher-ups happy, and he wants to make money because they're an investment firm. They no longer want to pump money in because they didn't know you can't make money as Premier League owners. And this is where we are. They need to sell up now because it's clear as day what they're doing.
They've lost interest, I think. And I think basically they were a little bit naive. And obviously coming from China, not really knowing the English game, I honestly think they thought, right, particularly after like the first couple of seasons, like they honestly thought that, right, we'll be in the top 6 consistently in a few years with all these players we bought. And the fact that we've gone from championship to 7th place, to European football, just like that. They thought, this is going to be easy. We'll just kick on from there. It doesn't matter. And we'll do this. And it just shows their naivety, really, because in the Premier League, it's such a money-rich league that if you don't spend, you go backwards. And that's what's happened, really. You have to invest just to even stay where you are. And our benchmark for there is a 7th place finish. And we've gone backwards now. And other teams who have invested in managers and players, Aston Villa, great example, have surpassed us completely, despite us being better when we came up by some distance, in my opinion. So that's what's happened. And the question now is whether Fosun, what do they want long term? There's 2 options here, because there's one outcome of this, which is just really depressing, where if we go down and they don't want to invest anymore, then, it could be a free fall. It could be a Birmingham City job again, couldn't it, really? And that disconnect will be there. And if there's nothing to spend, so I just question where they actually are with the project now and what they actually want from it, because I don't necessarily think it's gone to plan for how they thought it would go long term, even though their realistic vision of what they wanted was far off the mark in terms of how achievable it actually was.
Do you know what's even more shocking? Why they haven't sacked Gary O'Neill? We referenced it the other week. Hobbs was saying to Strand Larson, we're going to get Europe. We're in the bottom 3, so how's he still keeping his job if their aim was Europe and they thought that squad could do that?
Well, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Matt Hobbs would probably say we're 14 games in, so there. Let's look at comments. Bobby says the player we miss the most, and actually I forgot he existed, Boubacar Traore, has been bullied by big lumps in midfield all season. Neil says it's negligence by the club. Rubadini Rapid says he needed Sarabia and Tommy Doyle yesterday. Wolfsby says doesn't make any sense keeping O'Neill in the dugout. Morales died. I'm not agreeing that all players fight for Gary O'Neill. Heck, name even Lemina or whoever was interim if they have not a new manager. IH says we're effectively Sunderland till I die on repeat. But our sound system works, so that's all good. Graham says, what a condemnation it is for Fosun when our club with 30,000 home fans and incredible away support can't attract another manager. Dan Levitt says these owners are afraid to risk anything if they sack Gary O'Neill. They have to lose money, so I won't be surprised Cunha or someone big leaves in January when all this mess is happening and the club are trying to get money back. Kevin says, oh, no, Harry, they've got a point, haven't they? Let's have a look at the next manager odds, because the one who I said I don't think I'd bother going again if he did replace Gary O'Neill, Steve Cooper, he's moved to the top of those charts now at 5-1. Conceição, the former Porto manager, 6-1. Pedro Martins, 8-1. The West Brom manager, Carlos Corberán, at 10-1. You got Solskjaer at 10-1. Graham Potter at 12. David Moyes, the familiar names now, 14-1. Gareth Southgate, 16-1. Scott Parker, 16-1. The one that has been on everyone's lips today, Harry, though, is Jose Mourinho. He's in at 16-1 at the moment. It would be great, wouldn't it? I think one outlet obviously paid Elon Musk for their blue tick, and then a lot of channels have run with that today, is that he will leave Turkey and come and join Wolves. Do you think there's anything in that?
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. They're backing Gary O'Neill. It doesn't matter who's available. Steve Cooper was spotted in Wolverhampton.
He was.
And he was spotted in Wolverhampton, but apparently he said he weren't being interviewed. Mourinho one's just fake news. I don't know what that was all about. 5 million.
Mourinho doesn't get out of bed and go for a piss for less than about 200 grand. Mourinho, so they're not going to pay him when they've got Gary O'Neill on, are they? So no chance. They wouldn't spend the money.
I don't know. I agree. I mean, it's sort of, you look at who's out there, and you think that would just be a godsend. But as NF2204 says, how's Nuno doing? I mean, Jack, it does break your heart a little bit when you sort of look at what he's doing at Forest.
I was saying this when I was chatting yesterday. Like, do you remember when we sacked him for finishing, what was it, 11th or something like that?
13th.
During a COVID season, which was just a joke anyway from start to finish. And, there were so many people calling for him out, weren't there? So many. And I know it probably wouldn't have stayed good forever, but look, he's done really well at Forest, hasn't he? Given a chance. I know he didn't go well at Spurs, but arguably you say he wasn't given a chance because he was sacked so soon, despite winning Manager of the Month in his first month there. And he was sacked
8 games, was it, I think?
Yeah, so... I know we can't dwell on the past now, and at the time a lot of people were frustrated with the football and everything, and they probably had run its course. But ever since then, it's been a mess, hasn't it, really? It's been a mess. Large, Lopetegui and O'Neill. It's bad, isn't it, when you just say them out loud, and each one of them, for their own reasons, has failed in a different way. And one of them's still failing, but, we can't cut him loose.
Yeah, so true. I mean, Bruno Lage, Harry, you look back on some of those games and stuff. I'm not saying that some of the Nuno games weren't hard watching. I mean, that Brighton game before we went into lockdown 2020, you just think, oh God, it was a horrible 0-0 and stuff. But obviously we just come back from a European game, haven't we? We just come back from Barcelona potentially, I think. So, I mean, how times change.
Yeah, Bruno Lage, he was off the back of Nuno, so he did okay, didn't he? We pushed top 6, top 4, but that was just because he still had Moutinho and all that there. But yeah, and I remember when we loaned out Adama to Barca, was a joke, wasn't it? Like, if you think back, that was another Fosun mistake. So yeah, and we've brushed over the VAR thing. I think that would have been highlighted a lot more.
I'll bring you in there, Jack. I mean, you were there. What was it like for you? Because I think it's 2 Stonewall penalties, and I think this whole conversation is completely different if we come away with 3 points.
So I'll be honest, the Bellegarde one couldn't really tell because my view was blocked by the defender, so I wasn't particularly sure. The Guedes one, my initial thought was, that looks like a penalty to me. But then obviously VAR didn't give it. And the weird thing that happened at that, and I don't know if you saw this, obviously you get much better coverage sat home watching it on the telly than people do in the ground. But they put up the reasoning for why it wasn't given about 20 minutes after it happened, or a considerable amount of time. They put up like on the big screen, and it wasn't just after. It was the game had been going on for ages afterwards, and it just said that contact was outside the box. That's why it wasn't given. They put it up on the big screen saying that. And I've watched it back, and I'm still a bit suspicious about that because I'm not convinced that contact was outside the box. And watching it live, I didn't think contact was outside the box. That never crossed my mind. The reason I thought it couldn't have been given was the fact that there just wasn't any contact. But the VAR is saying there was contact, it just wasn't in the right place. So, to be honest, that confused me. I shouted for it at the time, but it's one of those where I just thought, oh, he must have dived. But then watching it back, I am not convinced.
No, not at all. And you just think, watching it, and they pull it back, and you think, West Ham goals chalked off, absolutely fine. You could see certainly offside and stuff, but you just think actually that those sort of penalties have been given so many times this season. I think, maybe we're a little bit lucky in some previous games where we've maybe gotten away with 1 or 2 and stuff, and people say it evens itself out. But I think that is the difference between this sort of toxic atmosphere
what
where
was
you
it?
don't want a manager in.
What was it like on the coverage? Like watching it live through Sky or whatever? Did they say it was a penalty, or did they say no, it was clearly not? Or
Yeah, you could
what were
tell
the
that
commentators thinking?
Yeah, you think, oh, they're going to pull it back here, and you think, oh yeah, no, he has clipped him. It's it's inside the box by a fucking mile. Like, it's
the
inside.
Guedes one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the message they put on this big screen was the contact was outside the box, so they didn't give it.
Really?
That's what they said. Yeah.
The Bellegarde
that's
one, they said the Bellegarde one, they said that is because he was theatrical and he wouldn't have gone down. He like jumped to the floor, but he stamped on his foot. But he said the contact wasn't strong enough.
But doesn't that contradict half the things we've seen before? Because the theatrics don't matter when they're zooming in to see if his toes touched his, the other person's boot.
Yeah.
So if the Guedes one had been given by the referee, by that logic, it would have still got ruled out for being outside the box. Would it have?
Well, if it's true, I mean, I didn't think it was out. It was nowhere near outside the box. I mean, it just isn't. It just isn't.
Did you sorry, I nipped away for a second there. Have you mentioned the Santi Bueno foul as well? O'Neill was going mad about. He was going mad about in the build-up for Bowen's goal. Santi got ripped to the floor in the box, didn't give it. VAR said they can't rule it out because it was the phase before the goal happened. So O'Neill's argument was, well, the second phase of the goal wouldn't have happened if they'd have given the foul. Because he was a foul. He jumped all over Santi's back. Then it goes back out the box, comes back into Bowen. He obviously bends it into the corner. Yeah. And I get that. I saw O'Neill was highlighting that a lot, saying it shouldn't have stood at all.
No, and you just think, we don't want to be in a situation where we're re-reffing the whole fucking game. But it's so inconsistent, isn't it, Jack? And we talk about these inconsistencies all the time. And obviously, you speak to a lot of other fans and they know that Wolves have been done over more than most. And it just seems to be the case again.
Just reminds me of that. Was it Liverpool where our player, there was one of their players stood miles offside and it clipped one of our players' heads on the way through. He was never in control of the ball. And they said, it's onside because it's a new phase of play. Like that just reminded me of that one, which is on the long list of absolute nonsense we've had to put up with.
Question there.
So look,
what's that?
From the Bournemouth podcast. One question and something I'd like to put to you is Jeff Shi finding it hard with new rules getting money out of China? This has been the case with a few clubs with Chinese ownership in the EFL.
Possibly.
Who wants to take that one?
That's a Bailey's question, isn't it? He's not here.
They're all communists.
It must be. It's either that or it's what we said earlier, and they just don't want to pump any more money in because they pump loads in, and they just know it's hard to get money back as a Premier League owner. But that could be the case. I know it all changed, didn't it, after COVID with the Chinese business model? But yeah, we're not experts on that. We're hardly experts on Wolves and football. So
I think Nick makes a good point now. He said, I've heard this, but they have spent money, but they bought shite, and I couldn't agree more with that. Like, we're looking at, potentially sacking O'Neill. And even if you're looking at bringing in someone like Mourinho, it's probably going to cost the same amount as Sam Johnston, isn't it?
I don't know what about. We spent £35 million on a player who scored against Barcelona, the winner the other week. Not for us, but and obviously paying him £80,000 a week for the last 5 years in the process. So that's sound. That's sound investment.
Oh, his agent, incredible. Let's move on to the next game. I mean, Harry, you were calling it a 6-pointer. Jack, I'm going to start with you, though, because for the first time this season, you have called a fixture a must-win game.
Yeah, I had a go at you guys disagreed with you guys a lot towards the start of the season because you were throwing the terms 6-pointer and must-win around after we only played 8 or 9 games. And, I thought you were just all being pant-wetters, to be honest. However...
But now we're 15 games in.
But this one on Saturday, now you can see how the table's shaping up and the fact that... Yeah. If we lose on Saturday to Ipswich, they will be 3 points in front of us, and we'll be at least 4 points off safety going into the Christmas period, and that is just shocking. So this game, really, we've got I thought from these three, which were West Ham, Ipswich, and Leicester, we needed 7 points, and we can't get that now already. So we need 6. So we need back-to-back wins from these fixtures, but I just don't see it. But this home game against Ipswich, if ever we mess this up, and I keep saying it, every game's the same though. I keep saying to myself, he's got to go if this. He's got to go if we lose to these. Got to go if this happens. And it just doesn't happen, does it? So we'll probably, lose 3-1 at home to Ipswich. Gary and Neil will come out and say, we'll get the boys going again. I'll get the best out of them. We sold Neves. Do you remember we sold Neves? We sold Neves, so you can't blame me. And it will just carry on with the same absolute nonsense that we've seen for the last nearly a year, really. So no confidence in it, but I'm happy to use the term must win, because if we don't get some points from these next couple of games, we are going to go down.
Harry, I mean, you've called it a must win. I think a lot of the games this season, you've been thinking they are games that you do have to be getting something from. Classically, we haven't, with 2 wins all season. Where do you go from here? I just want to go over the team that lost to West Ham. Johnson in goal, Totti Gomez, Bueno, Semedo, Doherty, Andre, Lemina, Aït-Nouri, Cunha, João Gomez, Strand Larson. Any changes in there?
Well, João Gomez will be out, suspended. I believe we've got another suspension as well, but it slips my mind right now. I think we've got someone else who's had too many bookings. Who will come in for João Gomez? You'd assume it would be, I don't know who the other suspension is. We should know this, really. But yeah, maybe Tommy Dore might get a shout in there.
Well, if it's someone, it may well be Lemina, Harry, because I think I'm just looking at who got booked.
He got booked just after the final whistle, didn't he?
Yeah. Cunha got booked as well.
I don't know if it's Cunha. Maybe it's Lemina. I don't know. Someone in the comments know if you can help us out. But yeah, everyone in the comments is just saying that, like, they're saying Ipswich is better than us at the moment. I think everybody in the league's playing better than us at the moment, so it's not that hard. But like we say, it reminds me a bit of going into the Southampton game. You just have to win. Like, there's so much pressure on it because of the bad results we've had. Since Brentford, I've thought every game we've gone into like this is we can't lose, we've got to get a win. I thought we had to beat Brentford at the time, and I thought we should have been sacked the way we lost. Obviously, Southampton, I thought was a must win. Maybe Palace, I thought was a must win, and we drew 2-2. When we beat Fulham, that was a bit of a bonus win because no one expected it. But then I thought, like, we should be beating Bournemouth and Everton as well. And at this point, with the fixtures we've had lately, because we've got no excuse now. I know O'Neill kept banging on about being underdogs all the time. We haven't been. We haven't been a lot recently, and we still find ourselves in the bottom 3. That's the worrying thing, because after Ipswich and Leicester, we're back to hard fixtures on paper. Yeah, we've got to beat Ipswich and Leicester. I mean, West Ham, I know they lost to Leicester, but if you see the shots West Ham had that game, they probably should have beat them. And West Ham weren't great shakes, were they? So I think we've got to win the next 2. I don't think we will, just because of how we're playing and the confidence is on its ass. And our manager, tactically, is probably about as good as me. But I'm not even joking. I genuinely think some of us could do a better job substitutions-wise and tactical tweaks in games. That is not even a joke. He's an ex-professional footballer. He's done all his coaching badges. And I think he's that bad in-game at subs and tactical lineups and all this hybrid shit. Football's a simple game. He tries to make it so complicated with this hybrid bollocks with Aït-Nouri and hybriding Semedo. It's trying to be like Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool when he was tucking into midfield from right back and that. We're bloody bottom of the league. Stop this bollocks. Just be simple. Go back to the Mick McCarthy days.
by a big bastard centre forward. Yeah.
It's just, but look, if we set up normal against Ipswich and you don't try anything funky, we should beat them. But I'm holding my breath when I say that because look how we defend. Anybody could score against us at the moment.
I don't think anybody in the comment section is saying that Wolves are going to win at the weekend. Martin says we won't win again this year. Jack, I think there's about 5 or 6 games before the end of the calendar year. Do you see 3 points in that time? And just what are your final thoughts on West Ham? Who played Ipswich? Sorry.
If we got Ipswich, Leicester, Spurs, and Man United, is there another one before the end of the year? I think that might be it.
Newcastle or Villa, is it?
Wait, when's that? I don't know. But yeah, I can see why people might be thinking that. But what was the question? Sorry, I was still thinking about that. About what
we're going to win another game.
We've got. Are we going to win another game? Yeah, I mean, we've got to. Like, if we don't, then we might as well just give up. Really. I think it could be one of those situations again on Saturday where we have to win, so we do. Kind of like Southampton. Southampton wasn't great. I mean, they had way more of the ball than us. They're just poor. Ipswich so far have proven that they're better. They seem to have definitely beaten some good teams on their day. So again, I've got no confidence, and they'll fancy it. They'll be looking at that as well, thinking, "Hang on, Wolves are just all over the place at the moment, and we can potentially be out the relegation zone ourselves if we go there and beat them." So they can go there and play with no fear, really. So I'm concerned because the only real positive is the fact that West Ham wasn't quite as bad as Everton, but Bournemouth was horrendous. Like if we turn up like we did against Bournemouth, then it we'll just lose again, won't we? So. I don't know. Probably be a draw, which will help neither team.
Correct. Yeah. Raymond says, I honestly don't know what setting up normal is for Gary O'Neill. Harry, he's got a point, isn't he? I mean, just on the fixtures, Ipswich at home, Leicester away, Man United at home on Boxing Day, and then we finish the calendar year on the 29th of December away to Tottenham. What is setting up normally for Gary O'Neill? Is it just press shuffle on the iPad and see what happens?
I think as well with Gary O'Neill, I think he's listened to a lot of outside noise throughout the season, because we know he wanted to be a back four at the beginning. Pre-season went well playing a back four. Then he did listen and switch, which I wanted at the time. Don't get me wrong. Then he'd listen and switch again. Like you remember Man City went to a 5. I think that was the first time he did it after our terrible start. Good performance that day, if you remember. And then he's chopped and changed every other game since, it seems like. He's gone 4, 3 centre halves, 4 at the back, 3. So under Nuno, I know we bring him up a lot, and I'm sorry to keep banging on about him, but that was the brilliant thing under him. Everybody knew their roles. We could pick the team every week. And that's what, like I said, football's a simple game. When everyone knows their jobs, when you've got good players, a couple of good players for each position, and you've got a system that works, it's nice to watch, isn't it? And we know what we're going to do. At the moment, I can hardly predict the team. I don't know what formation we're going to play. The players that come off the bench ain't got a clue what they're meant to be doing. And they're just playing off instincts, the likes of Cunha and that. A lot of our tactics this season's been give it to Cunha and hope he does something. He's not done anything the last 3 games, so we're struggling. He's our superstar and he's not unlocking defences because they're doubling up on him. But Gary O'Neill just stands there, looks at his iPad, walks over, shines his teeth at the camera and just goes, let's bring Hwang Hee-chan on. That's all he does.
Matt says
Right.
Lindelof is about to turn into Haaland. James says football's a simple game played by idiots. That's by Brian Clough. Cameron says Gary O'Neill's tactics remind me of Monty Python's 100 meters for people with no sense of direction. Everyone is all over the place at the moment. Couldn't agree more. Martin says I'm getting Terry Connor, Dean Saunders vibes at the moment. Wolves Awi says Ipswich is a free hit for us at the moment. Paul says how many losses will it take to sack Super Teeth? James says all winnable games if Gary O'Neill wasn't the manager. Wolves Awi again says why we're pretending that we're better than Ipswich. They have more points than us for a reason. I mean, Harry,
same points. I think we're on the same points.
Yeah, we know that he is here for Ipswich and Leicester. I mean, do you think that does any favours for anybody? For Gary O'Neill knowing that there's a chance that he can keep his job and continue with the project that's clearly going on in his head? Or do you think it's a problem for everybody else connected to the club where you go, we've got to at least go through 2 more fucking games of this?
Yeah, well, there's huge pressure on him again, but he keeps failing under pressure. He has the last 3 games. For him personally, hopefully it does give him a kick up the arse a bit because it has felt like he's give up the last few games. We've just got to win them. It's as simple as that. I think Fosun and Jeff are praying, and Hobbs probably, and Matt Hobbs are praying that he gets a couple of wins because they can be justified in sticking by him in literally when 95%, probably more than 95% now of the fan base want him gone. And maybe they've listened to the likes of Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football and think, hold on, this ex-Liverpool defender and people on TalkSport and Simon Jordan all think he should be given a chance, so let's give him a chance. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe it'll work in our favour that the pressure's on him and he might pull something out of the bag. But then even if we do win the next 2, I just feel like we'll go back to square one when we go back to the tough fixtures after that.
Oh, if we win the next 2, Europe's on, Harry. We all know that.
Yeah, we're all fickle. I mean, we're the worst for it. I'm the worst for it. I'm so up and down. And when we beat Fulham, I was looking at my passport, looking at the date, thinking, right, we're on a run now. When we lose to Everton and Bournemouth, I'm like looking at championship rounds I'm looking forward to going to. So we're very fickle.
Indeed. Harry, sorry, Jack, any closing thoughts before a score prediction?
No, I was just reminiscing about Harry mentioned how great that Nuno team was, and I just remember, like, honestly turning up to games and thinking, no matter who you're playing, that hang on, we can beat these. I remember when we went to Man United, Harry, that first the first time away, And they all thought we were mad because we said, I think we'll get something today to the Man United fans. And they just thought we were deluded. And it was right because play with no fear and everyone knew their jobs. And it was just, not something else I've ever really experienced in my life as a Wolves fan under that period. So, and now it's just so bad. So
champagne midfielders, though, wasn't it? Moutinho, Neves doing tricks. Raul Jimenez, who was arguably world class. I had arguments with so many other podcasts at the time saying that, mostly from Arsenal fans actually, saying that Raul Jimenez wasn't world class and Lacazette was better, even though he wasn't playing for France. But there you go.
Sam, it was only 7 months ago when we were discussing whether Lemina and João Gomez are better than Neves and Moutinho. Yeah, and all of a sudden, 6 months later, we think they're the worst midfielders ever.
Well, no, that's my point. We know the answer, don't we? Yeah.
But that's my point. Though they've shown their class. Even Andre, we brought Andre in. He looked brilliant. He's been poor the last few games, but everybody has. Our midfield is stacked with talent, but he can't seem to get them working, or he can't seem to get a system going consistently to have them perform. Against Fulham, Andre and João Gomez were unbelievable in midfield. And then all of a sudden, they look like they can't play again. We just can't consistently keep it going.
Martin's put it best, said Nuno had a dream, Gary had an iPad. I think that's extremely well put. Let's finish off then, Jack, with a score prediction.
1-1.
Oh, God, that's... Yeah, Harry?
Wolves 4, Ipswich 1.
I thought you were going to say 5 then.
We've got more of a chance, I think. Now, we want to end on another positive. We've got the old quiz book out again. We're going to do it on captains because of Lemina having a horror show as captain this week. These are difficult, I'll be honest, but they are multiple choice. So you've got a 1 in 4 chance of getting them right. Who would like to go first? Captains through the ages, and Jack is going first. Are you going to need it? This is so tough. Who was a Wolves captain and only goal scorer when Wolves won the FA Cup final in 1892-93? A good opener.
Go on, read him out.
Is it A, Harry Allen, B, Harry Wood, C, Billy Rose, or D, Jack Addenbrook?
Oh, it's definitely Harry Wood.
No, it's the other Harry. It's the Harry Allen. We know Harry Wood, though.
I just turned the comments off so I can't see them, but I don't think there's any point for these questions.
I think so at this stage. Harry, who was the Wolves captain when they won the FA Cup final in 1907-08? Was it Kenneth Hunt, George Headley, Billy Harrison, or Billy Woolridge?
I just like the sound of the name, so I'll go with Billy Harrison.
Oh, you've got the wrong Billy. It's Billy Woodridge. Oh, you've gone for
Billy No Mates.
Billy No Mates. Who was the Wolves captain when they won the FA Cup final, Jack, in 1948-49, and was also the club captain when they were champions of the First Division 3 times in the 1950s? Is it A, Bert Williams, B, Johnny Hancocks, C, Billy Wright, or D, Jesse Pye?
Well, it can't be. What year was this? Sorry,
48-49, and also club captain when they were champions of the First Division 3 times in the 1950s.
I mean, is this too early for terrible history here? But
the comment section is going to go tits at you. Yeah,
Billy Wright.
It is Billy Wright.
I was just making sure I wasn't too early.
Billy Wright, you're not wrong. Harry, who was the Wolves captain when they won the FA Cup final in 59-60? Was it Ron Flowers, Bill Slater, Billy Wright, or Peter Broadbent?
Was Billy Wright still playing that late? I'm going to gamble and say, I'm going to gamble and hope that Billy. No, would he? Hold on. I'll go. For some reason, Ron Flowers was sticking out. Billy Wright won't be the answer twice. So, from that logic, I'll go Ron Flowers.
It is Bill Slater. Unlucky.
Oh, okay.
These are tough. Who was the Wolves captain in both legs of the UEFA Cup final when it lost 2-1? Well, lost to Tottenham Hotspur 1971-72. Was it Phil Parkes, Jim McCollough, Kenny Hibbett, or Derek Dugan?
Can you read the question again?
Who was the Wolves captain in both legs of the UEFA Cup final when they lost to Tottenham Hotspur in 71-72?
Oh, I don't know. I know the choices were
Phil Parkes, Jim McCollough, Kenny Hibbett, Derek Dugan.
Kenny Hibbett.
No, Jim McCulloch. Oh, God's sake. It's
These are
tough.
hard.
Who was the Wolves captain when they won the Football League Cup final in 73-74, Harry? Was it Mike Bailey, Jeff Palmer, Derek Parkin, or Kenny Hibbett?
Oh, the two that stick out are Hibbett and Parkin. I'll go Hibbett.
It's Mike Bailey.
The Wolves fans like our dad's age are going to be
Men know
killing
that.
us in the comments
Absolutely
with these.
tearing
Aren't
us
they?
up,
They're going to
yeah.
know all of these.
Who was the Wolves captain when they won the Football League Cup final in 79-80? Was it Jeff Palmer, Derek Parkin, Kenny Hibbett, or Emlyn Hughes?
Emlyn Hughes.
It is Emlyn Hughes, yes.
Damn,
There you
Kenny
go.
Hibbett. Remember when you had him on the podcast back in the day?
Friend of the show. It's a bloody good interview that was. Enjoyed that. Harry, who was the Wolves captain when they won the Associate Members Cup final, then also known as the Sherpa Van Trophy final, in 87-88? Was it Mark Kendall, Ali Robertson, Floyd Street, or Keith Downing?
I hadn't heard of any of those players.
Good start.
Say it again. Say the players again.
Mark Kendall, Ali Robertson, Floyd Street, or Keith Downing?
I'll go for Keith Downing.
Keith Downing is incorrect. It is Ali Robertson. Jack, who was the Wolves captain when they won the First Division playoff final in 2002-2003 to gain promotion to the Premier League for the first time? Doesn't
More
even
like
need it. It is Paul Ince. And Harry,
It helps if I was alive when it happened.
Now we're talking, Sam.
know your history. Right, Harry, you should get this. It's recent. It's living memory, everybody. Who did Connor Cody take over from as club captain in 2018?
Danny Bath.
It is Danny Bath. Didn't even need the multiple choice. I make that 3-1 to Jack. Oh, God, I'm absolutely exhausted. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's been another bumper episode, and I feel like that we're all having a little bit of therapy together, and we can all be angry with each other. But to be honest, it does seem like most of the fan base are on the same side. It just seems that Fosun and Jeff Shi are not. Best of luck if you're heading to Molineux at the weekend for the Ipswich game. We'll say goodbye to Harry Mansell.
Goodbye, everybody.
And Jack Williams.
Goodbye.
And it is a goodbye from me. Goodbye.